Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice as the competition rages on down over in the pits over yonder, and we continue all of these games. We're moving through bracket number 1 here to find out who's going to be able to qualify on into the groups. TY and Yoan currently sit in a match later where they can qualify for one of those groups. But here at the desk, we only have one game going on at the moment. Dan, what is going on? You do have DNS going up against Stats.
Yeah, so they both open pretty macro-centric, a lot of sentries, you know, for scouting and taking their expansions, but Stats just did a massive amount of damage as they both went into Warp Prisms. He dropped a couple Adepts in. He killed 20 workers with 2 Adepts. It was pretty crazy, and now he's across the map. Once again, he's loaded up Immortals this time, though, and without Blink, these Immortals are going to do massive damage as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Prism on the other side, but DNS hasn't had any luck finding real damage here.
Well, he's not going to have much luck with that War Prism as well. That's unfortunate for DNS, definitely.
Things are going very wrong for DNS in this game.
Seems that way. Thanks for the little mustache that you've drawn as well there. That's beautiful. And that's the face. And overall, actually, do you want to kind of remind people out there? Thank you very much for that update, by the way, Artosis. Oh, no. Take it away from him as quickly as possible. I do want to update people as well. We did mention that Kerr was going up against Bly in that bracket. That was incorrect, and I want to make sure that you guys have the right information at home. Kerr will be going up against Puck in that lower bracket, so a PvP there as well. However, here on the main stream, we are going to have Maru going up against PtitDrogo. That is the fixture that we're going to have for our second game indeed. Pig, what do you make of this one? Maru, obviously one of the big powerhouse Terrans of Korea, going up against PtitDrogo, who's had his successes here and there.
He has definitely, you know, won a championship in early 2016 a couple of years ago. Hasn't really recreated that success most recently. And speaking to him when he came over here to the desk just before, he said, you know, it's going to be a tough match. And he said, at the moment, it looks like when you watch the best Protoss players in the world play PvT, they look so good and so unstoppable, but he's just not quite feeling at that level himself. He says, you know, he's got some strategies planned, he's going to try and bring something, but it's going to be a very tough match. And I think this is something anyone who's ever played against Maru knows, because he's so aggressive, he will get under your skin very quickly. If you make any mistakes, Maru's going to capitalize on them, he's going to run away with the game.
Well, I'm getting word that we are actually ready to go to the commentary team. Todd, I know you've been intrinsic in this section of the desk. We'll check in with you throughout this series. Being here. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to head over to the commentary team for Maru going up against PtitDrogo.
Yes, that's right. G'day, guys. Roddy and Maynarde are here to give you this PvT between two huge members of the scene here. Coming into it, though, even though he didn't really have a clean break out of his GSL group, he did get through. I still feel like Maru is heavily favored here against Drogo, who has been struggling a little bit against Terrans.
Yeah, I mean, Maru has been dominating the Korean ladder, and we saw last year what that can truly mean with Rogue, of course, going on an absolute rampage, winning tournament after tournament. A lot of the Koreans speak very highly of Maru. I spent a little bit of time with Sue yesterday, and I was asking him about a different tournament. I was like, hey, what do you think about the GSL? Who do you think is going to win? He's like, champion? I was like, yeah. He's like, Maru. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. It's kind of funny, right? Because he's the only Terran in that tournament, and he's one of the absolute top favorites for this one as well, but he's still got a long journey ahead of him, Maynard. He's not even in the groups yet. He has to battle his way through this open bracket, and we know that these brackets ain't easy, but like Artosis said as well, Drogo is not really feeling it in this matchup, but I'm curious to see what he brings out.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one, but first we have in the top left our Junior Green Wings Korean Terran. This is Maru. That is not Maru. But the guy in-game, I can assure you that is Maru. And in the bottom right here, from France, this is the Protoss player, PtitDrogo.
That's actually Drogo.
That is Drogo, yes.
So we've got a PvT on Asset Plant, one of the newer maps in the map pool. A map that I think is actually quite alright for Terran, because there are multiple ways into the natural, into the main base. A lot of the dead airspace as well above the main base of Drogo. But I am really curious about how Maru plays. We of course saw that series Maru vs Creator, right? And everyone, excuse me, Maru there. And everyone's like, oh my god, he just killed it with 2 Cyclones and 2 Hellions. This is amazing, Maru is a god. And I will never argue the fact that Maru is indeed absolutely amazing at StarCraft 2. But, you know, if you look at those games from a critical point of view, you have to wonder yourself, you know, why does a Protoss have 2 gateways on the low ground with only a single pylon that is not defending, no shield battery? If there is a single shield battery or a second pylon, those games, those pretty well-known games, could have gone completely different. Maru ended up winning them, and it looked like a stomp, it looked like a bob. But, you know, Protoss against Terran can be a very fragile matchup as well, and sometimes just having 1 shield battery can make the difference between losing 20 probes or nothing. I know that sounds extreme, but that's the way it truly is. So I think that Maru is going to have to play a tiny bit better than he did in those series, because I believe that Drogo, of course, is a die-hard StarCraft fan and a professional player, was watching those games, and he will not lose against the same openers as Deer lost.
Yeah, and he'll be likely looking to people like Classic, who are, you know, one of the most favored players coming into this tournament now, are actually in the tournament. You know, we'll be seeing Classic later, but Classic looked amazing in his same group there with Maru, where Maru's, you know, I mentioned at the beginning of the cast, this wasn't a clean performance in GSL, but certainly has the ability to make it to the round of 4, to win in the round of 8 of GSL, and also the ability to get out of this open bracket. We're seeing just pretty regular openers here for both players. Reaper expand for Maru, a depth expansion here for Drogo into a Stargate.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see the Stargate. I think it makes sense on this map, especially if you expect Maru to open up with a factory, which is what he did. This map is perhaps a little bit too big to open up with a 2 Rex or even a 3 Rex, and that's also not too much like Maru's style. But if I'm Drogo, you know, and if he, like, for instance, would go up against 2 Cyclones, opening up with a couple of Phoenixes would be lovely for him, especially if you have 1 shield battery, you buy yourself enough time to get that 2nd and 3rd Phoenix. You can also open up, of course, with 1 Oracle and then go Phoenixes. Both works. Knowing Drogo, it's probably going to be Oracle into Phoenix, and let's just see how good his defense is, and of course the offense at the same time, because it would be nice to kill at least a couple SCVs. He
had a pretty strong start there, getting rid of that Reaper, denying the information there from the scouting unit from Maru, and looks like Maru's going for a very old school, regular sort of TVP opening, going for a Widowmine drop here, making Widowmines on the factory, going to get his Redavacs out here.
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, nice little Adept harassment here, going to get 1 SCV and then shade on out.
And he's going to see the mine as well. And actually, I mean, he's going to keep the Adept alive. So that's a really good scout. Gets the SCV kill and then scouts as well that there is a mine. So now he knows exactly what he's going up against. This, of course, means that Drogo is going to have to be a little bit careful with the Oracle. But one of the reasons why, what Artosis mentioned as well, is why are those Korean Protosses doing so damn good against Terran? It's because the Chrono Boost has changed. And of course the Stalkers have been nerfed in the previous patch, but Chrono Boost is still very strong, and very often you're going to see Protoss with a pretty significant economic lead, and it's up to the Terran to do something about it. But if they can do something about that, it becomes quite naughty. You can see Drogo already 10 workers ahead. I don't think there is a mine here in the main...
Oh, there it is.
Oh.
Ooh, didn't get a kill either, so that's a nice defense there for Maru. Very nicely placed mine, very cheeky.
I didn't see it, Maynarde.
No,
I was like, I don't think there's a mine, and there it was, hidden below the SCV. Yeah. So this is a great start for Maru, because now Maru has all the freedom to actually do some economic damage on the other side of the map.
And without the Oracle, that's no more threat for Maru to lose those SCVs. Also, the spotting unit there for Drogo, that's basically his scouting unit as well that just died.
Yeah.
So he's in the dark here a little bit as he takes his 3rd Nexus, and Maru moves across the map. Oh wow, a siege tank in here with his Widowmines, while the Marines look to push that natural.
I mean, the Observer is showing us as well, the army of Drogo is simply not very impressive at this point. You're looking at 3 Phoenix and 3 Adepts against 11 Marines and a tank and a medevac as well, and there are mines in the mix. He could potentially even build a missile turret or 2, maybe a missile turret and a bunker. I'm a fan of both of those buildings. It's gonna be tough for Drogo to keep this Nexus alive. I have no idea how he's supposed to do that.
Oh man, well, Drogo needs to do something now, otherwise that 3rd Nexus is going to be toast. He comes down here with what he has. Maru's starting those bunkers up now. The tank is down with double Widowmine. No way the Phoenix is going to be able to lift this tank without several of them going down. One dives in on that tank, gets taken out. There's still a mine left with a charge.
Yeah, he did that on purpose. He tried to get a lot of splash damage on the Marines, and he absolutely got a decent amount of splash damage. But if you wait too long, all the Marines will just get healed up again. Now Drogo's really going to go for it, and I actually think that Drogo might still be able to keep this Nexus alive. And then that's actually a pretty damn good hold, considering the fact that he lost the Oracle.
That's absolutely right. He gets rid of all those units, and the bunker is going to get salvaged here, so Maru gets a little bit of money back, but that was a big investment for Maru. And Drogo not really that far down in workers, although he is losing a lot of mining time here with this Liberator.
Yep, and he's going to end up losing a few more probes. That gas is not safe to mine from, so the push didn't do everything that Maru wanted, but in the end, you know, getting this Liberator in the main and getting 6 probes and all this lost mining time, that still makes it a pretty damn sweet outcome for Maru. And better than I expected at first when I saw Drogo cleaning up that army. I was like, damn, not bad Drogo, but Maru wouldn't be Maru if he didn't have a backup plan. And now I actually kind of like Maru's position.
Well, I mean, once Stim kicks in, +1 with the bio, that's very, very strong against what PtitDrogo is going here, which is Gateway Phoenix. Those Marines are going to have a lot of damage and DPS output. Looks like he can slow down this CC for a little bit here, pick off that SCV, take it out, easy peasy, and leave. Meanwhile, this Stalker's looking for an opening, maybe try and harass the natural a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest problem for Drogo is that he lost multiple Phoenix, keeping his Nexus alive. And Phoenixes are so expensive, you don't want to lose them. Because if the moment you get 4 or 5 Phoenix out, A, you can shut down drops, but B, you can actually do a pretty severe amount of economic damage. The fact that he lost all of his Phoenixes defending against the push of Maru means that Maru is not really in any danger of losing a lot of SCVs at this point. And Drogo was also forced to warp in a bunch of Stalkers. And Maynarde, Stalkers are not really the unit you want to have right now. These Stalkers don't even have Blink. And even if they did have Blink, they would still not be very useful against his army in a straight-up fight.
Yeah, Stalkers are good, but they're not that good. You need the meat shield, and we can see that's on the way here for Drogo. He's getting into charge. He's going to start making charge loss now with +2 armor. They're going to be very, very strong against this bio, but until it starts, there is a bit of an opening here for Maru to do damage.
His army is just not very powerful, though, the army of Drogo, that is. You look at it and like, what can he really accomplish? He's got 2 Zealots. Of course, soon he's going to have 6, 7, 8, 9 Zealots. But even that wouldn't be enough. You really need like 14, 15 Zealots to really push this Terran army back. Maru knows it. Maru smells blood, and he's going to try to apply some serious pressure.
And this Nexus is already low from that first bit of pressure with that Siege Tank push, don't forget. So this thing is a very soft target for Maru. PtitDrogo consolidating all of his forces. There's one Charge Lot coming in being a little bit annoying. It will go down, but the third does survive.
But that's nice, though, because at least it bought some time, right, for Drogo. It pulled the reinforcements from Maru out of position. Maru was distracted, so Drogo buys a little bit of time, but he's still losing units left, right, and center, and that's not something he can afford with the economic damage he took from that Liberator.
And Maru's actually starting to shoot ahead in army supply here as his army gets bigger and bigger against Drogo's army, which is still quite weak. He still doesn't have Storm. He hasn't got Archons. Charge is done at least, and they have +2 armor, so they're good against Marines. This could be a nice little position here for Maru to push up into.
Yeah, +2 armor could actually help to keep these Zealots alive a little bit longer, but the problem is the Zealot count is just not really there. It's a couple Zealots at a time. Now the Phoenix count is kind of at a reasonable number again, but those mines, you got to be so careful with your Phoenixes, and Drogo knows it.
He's losing the Zealots here. The Warp Bids are being very, very strong. They're forcing Maru to start a step. The Phoenix is taking a fair bit of damage from the mines here. The mines are now shooting off their charges. Looks like they're not going to fire off anymore, so Maru has to pull back.
Decent hold so far, though. Oh, that Archon is a little bit too far forward. Drogo's going to be forced to fight one more time. And actually does it successfully. It would be nice if these Phoenixes could pick up a couple of the medevacts. And that is exactly what happens. -2 medevacts very quickly. And that's number 3 that goes down. And that makes it a lot harder for Maru to just kite forever because you don't have the healing power anymore.
Exactly. The strength of the bio is when Stim is married up with medevacs, and it really takes the wind out of his sails here to lose those medevacs. He's making 2 at a time right now, along with 2-2 on the way through Terran. So, you know, the upgrades are going to be quite nice for Maru shortly. And he still has that army supply advantage, but it is still, like, it's a little bit less convincing now, especially when Drogo starts to get those late game upgrades. I still think he doesn't have Storm yet. He does have a Templar Archive, so.
Like, it isn't. And, like, we're looking at the bright side of things, that Drogo's not dying, and we're like, oh, this is awesome, and he's pushing Maru back. That's right, but he's still down in workers. He doesn't have a fort base, and he's working with a composition where that's not supposed to be the case. Like, if you're working with a very heavy gateway composition like Drogo is, that's the moment where you're supposed to have a bigger base, or at least, like, you know, one more base. You're supposed to have a bigger army, and you're supposed to have double forge. Since he's single forge and only now getting the Robo Bay, being down 20 supply is actually very, very problematic. Especially with Zealots that are very good against small armies, but the bigger this Terran army gets, the faster those Zealots will melt.
Yeah, a lot of Marines will DPS the hell out of those. Oh, a nice catch here with these Liberators, seeing that War Prism loaded up with some charge lots here. I see one little edge here for Drogo, though, just having a look at the production tab. Like, we see that the Ghosts are on the way for Maru, and Drogo is gearing up for a Colossus switch by the looks of things. So Ghosts are not very good against Colossus. They are there for the Templar and the Storm. They can, however, still EMP and soften up those Zealots very easily.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem for Drogo. You're right, of course. If Drogo somehow can get out 4 Colossus and there is not a single Viking and only a few Liberators, that is very good for Protoss. But EMP is really going to hurt those Zealots, and the moment those Zealots are gone, there's quite a few Marauders in the mix for Maru. And if those Marauders stim forward, Colossus don't do a lot of damage against Marauders these days, especially not if you don't have an attack upgrade advantage over the armor of Terran, which is absolutely not the case for Drogo. So you're right, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be enough for Drogo.
We'll see. I mean, looks like this 4th might be slowed down a little bit. Oh, a couple of Phoenixes getting caught there by the army of Maru, and he's going to break down these rocks and start to push this fourth Nexus. Doesn't have a multiple attack prong, which is kind of weird as a Terran, especially Maru, who is so good with multitasking. He's kind of pushing at one spot each time.
He's believing in the power of those Liberators and the mines. I must say, I like it by Drogo that is this very moment that he's harassing. This is not when Maru wants to pay attention at home, but he does get a kill on that Nexus. But at the same time, Drogo forced the cancel on that CC. The longer this goes on, I feel like the more I like it for Drogo, because he does have double Robo. And if he's producing multiple Colossus at a time, he survived at least the scariest phase in the game.
And he has 2-2 now, so his army is quite nicely upgraded, well-rounded. A lot of damage output, a lot of tankiness on those Zealots against this bio. The Phoenixes have still been a nice little tool here for Drogo, giving himself some vision of the forces of Maru. Getting caught a little bit by the bio.
I love the attack animation of Ghost. Like, and then these Phoenixes actually take a lot of damage. You're like, what?
Yeah.
From that? From that weird-looking gun?
Oh, I mean, it's not worth dropping EMPs on those, of course. He's looking for the Archons, he's looking for the High Templar, looking for the Zealots. And speaking of the Zealots, that is a big charge lot run by. Looking up, it's in the way here for Maru with his army very, very much out of position.
Yeah, I mean, if Drogo once again can maybe distract Maru with a big Zealot run by and at that moment get a couple of good swipes off with his Colossus, the dream is absolutely alive. I don't think the Liberator count is super high, but you still don't want to run into it. But he does have Blink. I mean, he has 13 Stalkers. This is a massive Zealot run by, and I actually think at this point Maru had enough of it. He's like, you know what, I'm going to not deal with your Zealots, but Maru's not paying attention, and at the same time, Drogo's attack is kind of awkward though.
Yeah, Drogo's in a little bit of a choke point here, and the Liberators are very, very powerful. One that gets taken out here, the Archon right on the edge there gets taken down. The Colossus are doing tons of damage from the back. Blinkstalker's shaving out these medevacs and getting rid of the Liberators as well. The Ghosts still have lots of energy for EMPs, but like I mentioned before, they're not super great against Colossi here, and Drogo is doing a lot of damage.
I would love to see Drogo pull back a little bit. He's doing so much economic damage on the other side of the map that it's safe to say that if Drogo just survives against this push, he's going to be in a great position, but all the Colossus go down.
Yeah.
And can Drogo survive with just Zealots?
I mean, a big whoop in a Zealot's going to be very, very handy right now. It's exactly what he wants against this. The Prism gets taken down. That's a nice little pick off there for Maru. The Nexus is going to go down as well.
Yeah, this is nothing to fight here for Drogo, right? I mean, he's got 10 Zealots, but most of them are on the other side of the map. And he did so much economic damage. I would have loved to see him pull back, try to keep his Colossus in a safer position. You warp in a few more units, a few more Zealots to tank for your Colossus. And I really think if Drogo survives with 2 Colossus there, even if he ends up losing the Nexus, I think he could bounce back from that. Because he would kill all these units. He has another Nexus to fall back on. And he was doing so much economic damage. He killed 33 SCVs.
Well, Drogo wants a lot of charge lots, and he wants these high gas units, but he doesn't have much of a gas pack or much of a gas income. You can see that Drogo is just sitting on 150-ish gas right now, and Maru is shooting back ahead in the economy. So Drogo needs to, you know, he needs those Storms, he needs Archons, he needs Colossi, and they're too expensive for him right now.
I think Storm would be very hard, considering how high the Ghost count is, right? Because it's very unlikely that 1 or 2 High Templars are going to land the Storms that you want against 6 Ghosts. I mean, we're not talking about your Reddit Terran here, you're talking about Maru with 6 Ghosts. So basically, if you want to storm him, he's going to need a lot of High Templars. He simply doesn't have the gas income, so more Colossus, I think, is a better option. But it's going to be tough. I mean, Drogo's on the ropes, did a lot of economic damage, but he also took economic damage.
Yeah, they're so expensive, and Maru has this very lightweight, easy to replenish army, making 5 Marauders at once and getting Marines out as well. Marauders are fantastic against Stalkers and Colossus. And the Zealots will do the rest. So we have a warp in here from Drogo, and this might be the last fight in the game. Maru with a big concave here. A lot of his light units go down. The Marauders are still alive, though, and they tear apart that Colossus and their Stalkers as well.
Those EMPs on the Archons on the left side of that battle were gnarly, Maynard. They landed all over all those 3 Archons, and the moment you think you can rely on some beefy Archons to tank for you, well, that 350 damage is gone in the blink of an eye. Fun first game, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was not a stomp pick. That was actually quite close. It could have gone either direction at any point in that game.
And then don't forget that Drogo actually had a rough start, of course. That Oracle flying into the first mine, that's like your worst nightmare as a Protoss. That's the one thing you don't want to see happen, because you can't really rebuild the Oracle, because you need Phoenixes. If you start building Phoenix, you can't really stop after 2 Phoenix, because what on earth are 2 Phoenix going to accomplish? You know, if you lift 1 unit, it takes forever for that other Phoenix to kill something. So Drogo still turning it into a game, showed some good run-by, showed some good multitasking, but Maru, I mean, Maru never really shows much when it comes to his posture and his expressions, but he knows that he's amazing at StarCraft.
Maru, this is one of the biggest tournaments, if not the biggest tournament in StarCraft 2 regularly year to year, and Maru looks like he's just playing ladder. He just looks so casual, so relaxed, like he's hunched forward. He's just like, yeah, you know, GG, well, I guess, whatever, and like, let's get into game 2.
I enjoyed it. I wonder how he experienced that game. I think at one point Maru was actually getting a little bit annoyed by the Zealot run-bys. It's so frustrating as a Terran player when all you want to do is set up that pre-concave. You want to set up that good angle, right, with a couple mines well spread out. You liberate the circles and then you poke with a few bio units and you try to lure the Protoss army in, and then suddenly you hear your base is under attack and you have to look on the other side. And right when you look at home, that's when Stalkers blink in and they kill your Liberators. Yeah. I think he seemed a little bit annoyed at one point. He's like, you know, I'm not even going to bother anymore and I'm just going to kill you. And it got close, and I think that Drogo is going to think back about that one fight where he had all those Colossus on the low ground as well, you know, if they would have been on the high ground.
His army was split in a weird way. He was fighting that choke point with, like you said, the low ground, and he had some units on the high ground as well. The Stalkers were trying to blink up into that Nexus, and it got a little bit weird. But, you know, I saw hope for Drogo in that series. Like, we were talking about how Maru got out of his GSL group, but not very cleanly. Again, that game one, I think he won, but not very cleanly. There were a couple moments there where, like, he had a little bit of a late reaction time. You know, maybe we were extending in one place there, maybe not utilizing drops enough. And Drogo took some pretty good engagements, but, you know, Maru is Maru, and he's very, very solid, so he can turn poop into gold, Roddy.
This could, of course, be a choice of style as well for Maru, whenever he plays against a Protoss that, let's say, makes 4 or 5 Phoenixes, that he doesn't even want to drop because he feels that everything he sends in is committed to the cost, because you can't really pick up your units and fly away. That's when 4 Phoenix are going to gun down your medevacs. At the same time, though, I think sometimes Protoss players are overly confident in their defensive abilities when they have Phoenixes, that you can maybe outmaneuver it. You can just idle a medevac somewhere on the right side, and then the moment you see the Phoenix show up in your main base, that's the moment you send that medevac in. And I would like to see that kind of stuff as well, but on the other end, Maru got the job done, and that's all that matters.
Indeed, and we are going to get into game 2 pretty quickly here, with Maru currently 1 up in the series against one of the best Protosses in the history of the European scene. Drogo, he's been a champion before, it's been a long time between drinks before, and he's not yet got an IEM crown, but no doubt he is looking to get some serious money from this tournament. And Maru looking for that Spodek Arena spot. He's the guy that used to be on everyone's lips when we thought about the best Terran in the world. But let's introduce this guy at the top right of Blackpink. This is Drogo! And the bottom left, the Jin Air Green Wings Terran. This is Maru! Hands on the keyboard, mate. It's an important tournament.
Don't play StarCraft 2 and drink at the same time, Maru. It's dangerous. But perhaps if you're Maru, you can get away with these kind of things. So we have loaded into Blackpink. I think this is a map where if Maru would make a similar push, you know, with Marines, with a tank, I don't think he necessarily does it. That seemed like a very uniquely designed build, and it seemed very promising. But Drogo handled it, but at the same time, I think that Maru got done with the push what he wanted, because he forced out a bunch of Stalkers that were not useful, and of course he got the economic damage done. And as long as Terran is even in workers with Protoss after the first big exchange, and you're not down in like upgrades or bases, you're like, hey, I like this. This is fine, you know? And this is not fine in a way that, you know, his base is on fire. It's actually fine.
Yeah, like it's quite common in this matchup, especially since, you know, 4.0 and the change to Chrono Boost for Protoss to be up a base, to have an extra 10, 12 workers. Yeah. It's kind of more about army supply. Like, what are the upgrades for the Terran? What's the army supply like? Because you could easily see him killing a bunch of probes with some Widow Mines, maybe canceling a third Nexus or straight up killing it. And that's sort of what you pay attention to in the early stages of the game.
You know, Drogo in the past, we've often mentioned that even though he's a great player, sometimes he can be a little bit emotional, right? If things don't go his way, he can be a little bit tilted. We've even seen a rage quit or two occasionally, but despite the fact that he flew his first Oracle into a mine, and once again, I cannot emphasize on how annoying, how bad that is for a Protoss, he seemed like he stayed kind of calm and collected, and he turned it into a game. And the fact that you can turn any game into a game against Maru, I think that's something you can be quite proud of.
And the Observer just showed a couple times there that I think that the pylon doesn't fully block off the Reaper Scout here. There is a bit of a gap, so it's a little odd to not see that gateway go down to complete that wall off, considering the location of the pylon, but that's a really small detail here. So, you know, the Reaper will be able to jump up if it sees to.
He's going to drop his tech building there, the Stargate, or if he wants to surprise us a Robo. But I'm... Okay.
Yeah, okay. A Robo.
But I mean, it's... So he's just going to create a massive? What is this? Such an odd... base design.
These probes need to get back to work, I know that much. But, I mean, Robo is something that PvT used to always have because they needed the Observer to just not straight up die to Widow Mines. But of course, at the moment, Widow Mines are detected after they fire off, so they don't always need those Observers as soon as possible. So it's kind of old school to see this Robo come down. Oh, and it looks like Maru's going for Hellion Harassment as well, which definitely can get a lot of probe kills if the Protoss isn't on the ball.
Yeah, a tech lab, quite an early tech lab. He's going to go for a very fast stim behind this. I'm a little bit confused. Let's see where Maru takes this. Is it going to be 2 Hellions then Cyclones, or are we going to see straight up 4 Hellions? Okay, it's 2 Hellions and then 2 Cyclones. So this is something that we obviously know that he loves to do. If Drogo scouts this, he can obviously pump out an Immortal. That's going to be very useful. Losing these adepts can be quite painful though, because in this phase in the game, Protoss doesn't have a lot of units. If you take a look at the main base of Drogo right now, he is at least creating a wall off, but I still think he really needs a shield battery in the natural. Otherwise, it goes back to what I mentioned before this series started. If you don't have a shield battery, I mean, of course, with an Immortal, you're going to be a little bit safer, but it's going to be quite annoying. So
there's a straight-up ground push here. It doesn't look like there's any medevac with this at all. So doesn't have the ability to get up to the main very, very easily. So Drogo is going to need to get his Immortals out. He's going to have to deal with his mechanical units very, very quickly and efficiently. Otherwise, Maru could break into that natural and get into that probe line. So this wall-off is very nice, with the shield battery especially. Yeah, I'm happy to see a shield battery. I think with the Immortal, he would perhaps be fine anyway against the Cyclones. But it's one of these moments where you'd rather be safe than sorry. You don't want the Hellion to fly in and just like trigger the barrier, wait until the barrier is deactivated. And if your Immortal goes down, your game will go down. But of course, with a shield battery, you don't really have too much to worry about anymore. But what I am still surprised about is his very fast stim follow-up for Maru. Yeah. This is something that Drogo really needs to scout. He has an observer on the way. Is there already one marching across the map? Yes, that's the first one. Okay. Pretty quick robotics bay though from Drogo, so he could get the splash damage he needs here. Yeah. Maru's looking very 2-basey right now. Oh, good catch on that observer. Gets rid of that with the anti-air missiles.
I mean, it's that's an incredibly good catch, because once again, Drogo needs a scout that he's going up against a fast stim build. This is not that common. Drogo's going to move out. He's going to be like, you know, you don't really seem too eager to actually go up my ramp. You're not making 4 Cyclones, which is something we've seen a couple times as well. And he's like, I'd really like to see what you're doing on your side of the map. We've got a War Prism. That's a very early Prism. Meanwhile, the Reaper is being annoying in the main base. Reaper has scouted everything.
You think perhaps maybe a Disruptor drop play with that fast Prism? It'd be kind of weird though.
Yeah, I don't think that's Drogo style. I think he's going to go for Colossus. I think the Prism is just there to buy time in case Maru wants to march out. You know, warp in a couple Zealots, be annoying, keep him at home while you're getting your first Colossus out. But I mean, if he would somehow do a Disruptor drop, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, it'd be pretty swag though. I love the Disruptor.
There are a couple Protosses who love it, but I think Drogo just doesn't strike me as a Disruptor drop type of Protoss.
Yeah. The Observer does get on the production here of Maru. Sees no 3rd CC, sees a lot of production facilities. So, like I said, Maru's looking a little too basey here, and he's going to have a very strong push coming up shortly.
I wouldn't even mind if Drogo decides to stay on 2 bases a little bit longer. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do, because he had a probe. Is he going to warp in the Nexus? Not. I would like to see him. Okay, he's going to warp in the Nexus. But at this point, I feel like you're opening up your main base. One of the big downsides of opening up like this is that you don't have quick blink. Blink is halfway done, and if 16 Stim Marines show up in your main base, it's going to be very, very bad. And Maru is already setting up the drop right now. The way he's doing this, he's like, hey, I've got 2 Cyclones here, I'm being really annoying. You should come over here. And if Drogo does not anticipate this and he's out of position against this drop, he is going to lose a lot of probes.
Oh, the Stalker looks like it might be able to catch these drops here. So he at least sees it coming in, but does he have any unison? A big warping of Stalkers! Is this an overextension from Maru, or will he be able to unload here?
I mean, the Colossus is a little bit out of position, but at least these Stalkers do buy time, and Drogo doesn't really take much damage. There was 1 Stalker, maybe 2 Stalkers that went down.
Yeah, good trade.
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing for Drogo is that he doesn't end up losing 18 probes, because that is what will happen if you're way out of position.
There's a pretty juicy pile on a lot of production facilities there as well. So this drop is still annoying for Drogo. He needs to sort of pin back his units and make sure he doesn't take too much economical damage. Oh, this is an opening here. Some sentries getting taken down. An Immortal under threat as well as those Zealots go down. And the Cyclones even joining in to deal with these Stalkers. Oh my god, a massive, massive push there from Maru with a very small investment, getting a lot of damage done.
Yeah, at least the Stalkers did manage to take care of one of these medevacs, but now Widowmine show up as well. The Colossus here is so important for Drogo. If he ends up losing the Colossus, he's going to end up losing the game straight up here. Goes for a forward blink there just to get a single unit and somehow doesn't lose a single unit. Well done there. If I was Drogo, I wouldn't try to be too fancy right now. Just survive.
That's the game plan here for Drogo. Looks like Maru's got his sights set on the main base, loading up 3 medevacs with a bunch of units.
I'm sad to see that Observer with the main army. I know it's useful in spotting mines and stuff, but he needs to see where those units are going from Maru. He doesn't have a Stargate, and this time he's going to be way out of position with everything, Maynarde. Not just with a couple of units, but Well, he does have a few Blink Stalkers here, but do you really want to blink into that?
And the Prism, in fact, nearly gets taken down there by those Cyclones, but the Bio is deciding that it wants to engage these Stalkers, doing a very good job against them. The Big Daddy Colossus is coming up to better help out here for Drogo's defense. And it looks like Maru actually, meanwhile, while the third is open, is going for another push.
Yeah. I mean, the big problem now for Drogo is that he lost his Robo Bay. He did have Thermal Lens, I believe, so you really want to make a few more Colossus. That shield battery is going to get picked up. He's going to use Recall, and Maru is like, okay, well, then I guess I have to get out of here. But at the same time, Maru is going back to the main base with his initial drop. Drogo did leave a few units behind, but is it enough?
With the Cyclone here against these Stalkers, and even the upgraded Bio doing very, very nicely. Looks like Maru will continue to do a bit of damage. I think he has to lift out pretty shortly here with another warp in from Drogo.
The biggest problem is Drogo can't spend his money anymore because he lost his Robo. Normally you want to invest some of your resources into those expensive Colossus. Maru scans and you know that what he's thinking. Can I stem into that or not?
Well, this is the Maru I know and love. Hitting in two places at once, using his multitasking and his mechanics to just shred apart weaker opponents here. But, you know, Drogo's been doing very nicely, but at the moment it is starting to snowball out of control for him.
Yep, I felt like the initial defense for Drogo was good, but he just never had the map vision he truly needed.
Wow.
Maru is just going to drop into the main base. No respect for these Protoss units, Maynarde.
None at all, and he just takes out more and more of them here as he looks like he's on the precipice of taking the entire series with map number 2. Let's drop in the third as well. Where's Drogo's army? It's gone. GG. Maru with a 2-0, and once again, looks like he just played a ladder game.
It seems like he was listening to you, Maynarde. He's like, you think game 1 wasn't clean? I'll show you clean in game number 2.
That was clean. That was clean from Maru. Beautiful game 2 there.
Yeah,
just needed a warm-up, I guess.
No, really well done. I just love the way that he played. I love the way that he scouted. I love the way he analyzed the positions. And I love the little tricks, you know, even the Cyclones pulling that initial army out of position. It's a tempo game. StarCraft 2 really is all about momentum. And you give Maru a finger, he's going to take your whole arm, you know, because he's just so good in building up momentum for his aggression. Yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed game number 2. Maru shows us that he's here, not to mess around.
That's right. Pretty action-packed series there for Maru and Drogo. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have an interview with Maru and Smix.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We just concluded our second match of the day where we saw Maru take out Drogo in very convincing fashion. So, first of all, Maru, as someone who doesn't get to play foreign players often, after playing Drogo twice, once today and in the qualifier, what are your thoughts on him as a player? 이제 해외 선수들을 자주 못 만나잖아요. 그래서 이제 드로고 선수를 오늘이랑 그 예선 때도 두 번 만나서 이겼는데 드로고 선수에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요?
일단 되게 잘하는 선수라고 생각하고 방심 안에서 좀 좋은 결과 있었던 것 같아요.
So personally, I do think that he's a very good player. I think that I was able to have such great results against him because I made sure to not lose focus and concentrate in all the games that I had against him. And so luckily I was able to win that series. And Maru, as someone who mainly plays just in Korea, coming to a foreign event like this, I can't help but feel like your desire to do well must be even greater. Is that the case, or how do you feel about this event? 해외 대회에서 자주 못 나오는 만큼 그만큼 더 잘하고 싶은 마음이 있을 것 같은데 실제로 어떠세요?
일단 이 대회가 지금 제일 큰 대회고 제일 중요한 대회인 만큼 열심히 준비했는데 좀 예선부터 좀 잘해가지고 좋은 결과 있었으면 좋겠어요.
So he says, currently IEM Katowice I consider the biggest event going on right now. And so because of that, coming into this event, I practiced really, really hard. Now that I've had such a really great start, I hope this can continue and that I can continue to show great results. And in order to do so, you need to take down your next opponent, which is Stats. So Stats is a player you faced many times. You've won 10 times, lost 8 times. So it's been pretty even. What are your thoughts on how that match will go? 이제 다음 선수는 김대호 선수를 만날 건데 되게 자주 만났던 선수이기도 하고 그리고 10번 이기고 8번 졌어요. 그래서 되게 좀 막승막하였는데 김대호 선수에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요?
사실 제가 여기 오기 전에 떨어졌으면 좋겠다고 생각했는데 그렇게 안 돼서 좀 아쉽고 그래도 만난 만큼 최선을 다해서 이겨야 될 것 같아요.
So honestly, I was really hoping that he would lose before it got to me facing him. So I'm kind of disappointed that I ended up having to face him. But now that I am facing him, I'm going to make sure to do my absolute best so that I take him down and move forward. So congratulations again, Maru. Best of luck in your next match. James, back to you.
That's right. Thank you very much, Smix. Indeed, we have plenty of games going on as well here. And as we say, that guarantee of the Maru Stats qualifying match is a big deal indeed. Let's check in with some of the boys here at the desk, as we're going to check in with Laptop 1 to start things off. Todd, I believe you currently have the qualifying match between Ryong versus TY, which is a very important match.
Yeah, and TY is putting the hurt on Ryong currently. They traded units pretty evenly, but TY was just so much quicker with everything expanding, and the soup doesn't like Kaelaris, and right now TY just has way more than Ryong, and sadly we missed all of the engagements here that were happening down there, but it was just TY completely pulling Ryong apart, taking the better engagement with both the Liberators and tanks every single time, and I think he's about to put the final nail in the coffin here in a second.
Yeah, even with those upgrades so far ahead as well. Good stuff by TY to get things going in game number 1. Thank you very much for the update. We're going to head over now to Pig, who had Kerr versus Puck in the lower bracket. How did that kind of shape up? I don't think we got to see any of that series, actually.
No, we didn't, unfortunately. So it did just finalize. Kerr actually just took down the 2-0. We can hop in game. I'm in the replay here, and we can just talk about this second game. The first game we'll talk about afterwards very quickly, but we saw here basically Puck opened up with 2 adepts, and they were just denied completely, and Kerr went for a very safe expanded earlier, and went Phoenix.
Yeah.
Very defensive, straightforward play, and Puck unfortunately played into his hands, went for an Oracle opening, and if there's one thing Oracles aren't very good against, it's Phoenix openers. So Kerr got an advantage early, he took advantage of the skies with the Phoenix, finished him off with a big timing attack. Very good play.
All right, thank you very much, Pig. And just as an update for the result, TY did just take that win. Let's head over now to Laptop 2.
Yes.
As we did have Sol versus Stefano currently going on, correct?
Yeah, really cool. Sol took game 1, and now he's actually hitting a very big Hellbat timing attack here. And he teched this out a lot. Like, he got 1 Marauder with Concussive Shell and boosted it in a finishing medevac to meet the army. So this is like a very tight, very cool build that we're seeing here. And I mean, Stefano might get eliminated from the tournament a lot earlier than he was expecting here.
Sol doing very well in his home nation here to start things off in Katowice by the looks of things. And drawing the Hellbats.
Look at that. These queens, man. They are just going to die. It's crazy.
That landed Viking actually doing quite a bit, man. That's really cool.
I think Stefano is going to be eliminated here. Draw the 2.
Yeah, quick.
Good job, Artosis. Lovely. There they see it.
Look at that. These drones, they got to run over here.
Oh my god.
Production right now is like, why did we give them this?
Bob Ross, eat your heart out. We have Artosis in the house.
This one Marauder is just, I love this play that he just got one Marauder with concussive shells, and he's like, oh, are you trying to run out of here, Queen? Because normally you can run away from Hellbats. They just waddle.
That's a very good point.
That's cool.
And that looks like the ending of that. Something I did want to talk to you about, Dan, was the Stats versus DNS series that completely concluded whilst the other games were going on.
That's right. He did end up 2-0ing DNS. We saw a bunch of the first game where he got a lot of harassment damage done. The second game was on Biogenesis, so... You know, as Pig always says, you know, playing a little bit of chicken there on the vetoes. But Stats went for a very quick blink upgrade, whereas his opponent just went into actually a quick immortal push.
Right.
So it was a little bit dirty back and forth. They both killed about 7-8 probes of each other. But then Stats, he hit this counterattack with blink, had an immortal mixed in there. When you're fighting with Stalkers without blink against Stalkers with blink,
Who wins?
Nice.
That doesn't go well.
That's that.
Doesn't go well.
Just a few more updates from the lower bracket as well. It did seem that Mamba is eliminated by Probe. Probe moves on now to fight against PtitDrogo, who just dropped down into the lower bracket. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Let's check in with the bracket to get you confirmed and up to date with everything that's going on so far here in bracket number 1. TY with that one win. We just moved away as the victory came out, but you, Todd, caught the last push of all of that. And Maru versus Stats is another qualifying match. South Korea reigning strong in that top upper bracket. Meanwhile, down towards the bottom, we do have Kerr being victorious over Puck, and those stats and numbers are going to be coming in as those games continue on. And that is the update here for bracket number 1. We're going to go to a short break here, ladies and gentlemen, and when we come back, more StarCraft action from the Intel Extreme Masters.